Welcome back. So I'm still reading the narrative of Moses Ropa, trying to hurry to get him home before the holidays, right? He has just been bought by a Mr. Register, who Moses Ropa states is a cruel master. Let's jump in. About 2 hours after we started, it began to rain very heavily and continued to do so until we arrived at Mariana, about 12 at night, where we were to rest till morning. My master here questioned me as to whether I intended to run away or not. The man is Moses Ropa, the runner, and I, not then knowing the sin of lying, at once told him that I would not. There is no sin of lying when you're trying to save your life or someone else's life, or when you're trying to escape an abusive oppressor. He then gave me his clothes to dry. I took them to the kitchen for that purpose, and he retired to bed, taking a bag of clothes belonging to me with him as a kind of security, I presumed, for my safety. In an hour or two afterwards, I took his clothes to him, dried, and found him fast asleep. I placed them by his side and said that I would then take my own to dry too, taking care to speak loud enough to ascertain whether he was asleep or not, knowing that he had a dirk and a pistol by his side, which he would not have hesitated using against me if I had attempted secretly to have procured them. I was glad to find that the effects of his drinking the day before had caused his sleeping very soundly, and I immediately resolved on making my escape, and without loss of time, started with my few clothes into the woods, which were in the immediate neighborhood, and after running many miles, I came to the river Chepoli, which is very deep and so beset with alligators that I dared not attempt to swim across. I paced up and down this river with the hope of finding a conveyance across for a whole day, the succeeding night until noon the following day, which was Saturday. About 12 o'clock on that day, I discovered an Indian canoe which had not, from all appearances, been used for some time. This, of course, I used to convey myself across, and after being obliged to go a little way down the river by means of a piece of wood I providentially found in the boat, I landed on the opposite side. Here I found myself surrounded by planters looking for me, in consequence of which I hid myself in the bushes until night, when I again traveled several miles to the farm of a Mr. Robinson, a large sugar planter, where I rested till morning in a field. Afterwards, I set out, working my way through the woods about 20 miles towards the east. This I knew by my knowledge of the position of the sun at its rising. Having reached the Chattahoochee River, which divides Florida from Georgia, I was again puzzled to know how to cross. It was 3 o'clock in the day when a number of persons were fishing. Having walked for some hours along the banks, I at last, after dark, procured a ferry boat, which, not being able from the swiftness of the river to steer direct across, I was carried many miles down the river, landing on the Georgian side, from whence I proceeded on through the woods 2 or 3 miles, and came to a little farmhouse at about 12 at night. At a short distance from the house, I found an old slave hut, into which I went and informed the old man, who appeared 70 or 80 years old, that I had had a very bad master from whom I had run away, and asked him if he could give me something to eat, having had no suitable food for 3 or 4 days. He told me he had nothing but a piece of dried Indian bread. Now remember, when often on these plantations, when the enslaved people became old, they stopped feeding them, providing them with food, because they only valued their labor. But let's see what happened. He only had that dry piece of Indian bread, which he cheerfully gave me. Isn't that beautiful? Having eaten it, I went on a short distance from the hut and laid down in the wood to rest for an hour or so. All the following day, Monday, I continued traveling through the woods, was greatly distressed for want of water to quench my thirst, it being a very dry country, till I came to Spring Creek, which is a wide, deep stream, and with some of which I gladly quenched my thirst. I then proceeded to cross the same by a bridge close by and continued my way till dusk. I came to a gentleman's house in the woods where I inquired how far it was to the next house, taking care to watch an opportunity to ask some individual whom I could master and get away from if any interruption to my progress was attempted. I went on for some time, it being a very fine moonlight night, and was presently alarmed by the howling of a wolf near me, which I concluded was calling other wolves to join him in attacking me, having understood that they always assemble in numbers for such a purpose. The howling increased, and I was still pursued, and the numbers were evidently increasing fast. But I was happily rescued from my dreadful fright by coming to some cattle, which attracted the wolves and saved my life, for I could not get up the trees for safety, they being very tall pines, the lowest branches of which were at least 40 or 50 feet from the ground, and the trunks very large and smooth. So he has human wolves in the bodies of a white man searching for him, and then he has real wolves who are trying to eat him, and the cattle must be sacrificed to save Moses' life. About 2 o'clock, I came to the house of a Mr. Cherry on the borders of the Flint River. I went up to the house and called them up to beg something to eat, but having nothing cooked, they kindly allowed me to lie down in the porch, where they made me a bed. In conversation with this Mr. Cherry, I discovered that I had known him before, having been in a steamboat, the Versailles, some months previous, which sunk very near his house, but which I did not at first discern to be the same. I then thought that it would not be prudent for me to stop there, and therefore told them I was in a hurry to get on, and must start very early again, he having no idea who I was, and I gave his son 6 cents to take me across the river, which he did when the sun was about half an hour high, and unfortunately landed me where there was a man building a boat who knew me very well, and my former master too. He, calling me by name, asked me where I was going. I was very much frightened at being discovered, but summoned up courage and said that my master had gone to Tallahassee by the coach, and that there was not room for me, and I had to walk round to meet him. I then asked the man to put me into the best road to get there, which, however, I knew as well as he did, having traveled there before. He directed me the best way, but I, of course, took the contrary direction, wanting to get to Savannah. By this hasty and wicked deception, I saved myself from going to Bainbridge prison, which was close by, and to which I should surely have been taken had it been known that I was making my escape. Again, Moses, seeking freedom is never hasty or too wicked. Leaving Bainbridge, I proceeded about 40 miles, traveling all day under a scorching sun through the woods, in which I saw many deer and serpents, until I reached Thomastown in the evening. I there inquired the way to Augusta of a man whom I met, and also asked where I could obtain lodgings, and was told that there was a poor minister about a mile from the place who would give me lodgings. I accordingly went and found them in a little log hut, where, having awakened the family, I found them all lying on the bare boards, where I joined them for the remainder of the night. In the morning, the old gentleman prayed for me that I might be preserved on my journey. He had previously asked me where I was going, and I, knowing that if I told him the right place, any that inquired of him for me would be able to find me, asked the way to Augusta instead of Savannah, my real destination. I also told him that I was partly Indian and partly white, but I'm also partly African. But this I admitted to tell him, knowing if I did, I should be apprehended. After I had left this hut, I again inquired for Augusta, for the purpose of misleading my pursuers, but afterwards I took my course through the woods and came into a road called Coffee Road, which General Jackson cut down for his troops at the time of the war between the Americans and the Spaniards in Florida, in which road there are but few houses, and which I preferred for the purposes of avoiding detection. So we're going to stop here, and we see Moses using his weight to get away, and fortunately he's still on the loose. Thanks so much for listening.